I'm with Dr. Mazin Qumseyah from the Palestine Museum of Natural History. Now, Mazin, what is the Palestine Museum of Natural History?
Well, the Palestine Museum of Natural History is part of the Palestine Institute of Biodiversity and Sustainability, and we are in Bethlehem University. Its mission is focused on three areas: research, education, and conservation related to our natural and cultural heritage.
And when were you started and why were you started?
We started this project in 2014, so it's 3 years old, and its idea was to help promote the environmental conservation in Palestine and to ensure sustainability and continuity. We believe our philosophy is that diversity is strength, whether diversity in nature or diversity among human populations of various religions and backgrounds. So this guarding of our diversity of the natural world and the human anthropological diversity we consider are important features.
And what are the goals and the aims of the museum?
Well, as I said, the mission focuses on research, education, and conservation. Its goals include things like researching our natural environment, what plants, animals exist, the habitats that they live in, which ones are endangered, things like that, and also the anthropological impact on the environment, like human population growth, the Israeli industrial settlements, the wall, Israeli residential settlements, their impact on the environment. All these impacts on the environment we study, we research, we understand, and we try to mitigate or even counteract in some cases and stop. So that's a basic aspects of our goals. The others include things like education of children. So children are educated about what's the environment like here, what are the dangers, how they can protect the environment, how they can recycle things like waste products, how they can reduce use of water, how they can take simple trash and convert it to something useful. Organic trash, for example, by composting can be useful fertilizer, or we can even make from it biogas, by anaerobic bacteria, composting, etc. Or plastics, for example, and glass, they can make even gifts from them, so children participate in these activities. And through doing, they learn. So we believe that education is not by lecturing, but by action and by doing. This is how, by experiential learning and by developing critical thinking, etc.
Did the wall built around Bethlehem have an effect on the environment?
Yes, we did a number of research projects related to environmental impact of the occupation in general, and the wall specifically, of course. The wall does have an impact in terms of mobility of land animals like mammals, etc., gazelles, foxes, and so on. But the other thing is, what the wall has done is coop up the Palestinians in smaller areas, Bantustans or ghettos, which forced them to build basically extensive building to use, the streets have become polluted, etc. So we looked at changes in habitats also, because the wall and the Israeli other infrastructure that's built to restrict Palestinians, like roads, is a separate infrastructure that's built in parallel with the existing infrastructure. So it causes further damage to the environment. And we looked at, for example, the Bethlehem district. We published 2 papers on decline in biodiversity in the Bethlehem region due to Israeli settlement activities. In one paper, we looked at the diet of the eagle owl in the Bethlehem region and found that the eagle owl diet has shifted over the past 30 years or so from biodiverse animals that used to hunt to basically rats, because that's all what's left. 60% of its diet now is rats, human commensal species of rat. So this is, we have good indications that human activities are leading to environmental degradation, and we document this, we publish it in peer-reviewed scientific papers, journals, and this is something that's done with the most rigor and most data available.
Is there a lot of wildlife in Palestine?
Yes, Palestine is very rich in biodiversity. It's richer than most countries at the same latitude, or all countries actually at the same latitude. Of course, tropical regions have more biodiversity, but if you go north towards our latitude, Palestine is very, very rich. And the reason for that is geologic and geographic. Geologically, because of the Great Rift Valley that resulted in the lowest point on Earth, which is the Dead Sea and Jericho, and then having mountains, etc., because of the continental plate tectonics with the Arabian plate and the African plate that are rubbing together, creating this Great Rift Valley. And this habitat connections to Africa also created in a very small area 4 biogeographical zones: Irano-Turanian, Saharo-Arabian, Mediterranean, and Ethiopian elements that enter into our region. So in a very small area, and of course geographically, because Palestine is situated at the nexus between Africa and Asia, so there's a lot of migrations of plants and animals, etc. Also, because of the way it's situated, we get 500 million birds migrating through Palestine on annual migration from Eurasia to Africa, and we have over 540 species of birds as such. And we have 2,500 species of plants, which is almost twice as much as what's found in the whole of England. So it's certainly, for the latitude that we are at, is very rich biodiverse area, and we think that has to be guarded, and it's now threatened by the political and other impacts of human activities.
What can people see here when they come to the museum?
Well, the museum now is not intended to have like a natural history museum you would expect in Europe or North America. First, we are very small. We are relying mostly on volunteer efforts. We do have a small exhibit area where we have some animals and plants and things like that people can observe and study. Again, experientially, I would say, because we don't want people just come and be impressed with a lot of dinosaurs or whatever, which we can do eventually if we want to. But at this point, mostly students come and do experiments and research on nature and study nature in its habitat. We have a garden, a botanical garden, which is like an ecosystem. It has a pool with 3 species of frogs, 2 species of fish, dragonflies flying around, butterflies flying around. So we're trying to show them nature in its structure, not in cages or zoos or anything like that, and certainly not in any kind of artificial environment. And we want them to experience those, to touch and feel and smell the nature and learn by doing what impact they have on the nature, etc. So that's why it's kind of unique in that sense. While we are small, we get hundreds of visitors every week that come and experience these things and learn to do things like recycle their trash or recycle organic waste from their kitchens and make fertilizers and grow vegetables in an organic way while also protecting the environment. So we have also aquaponics and aquaculture systems, and they learn how we can still grow some vegetables, grow some fish in very limited land with limited water resources that were left to us after the Israeli activities.
How good is Palestine at protecting the environment?
Well, we don't have a Palestine. We are under occupation, so we don't have a government that can protect the environment. We have the Palestinian Authority, and there is an environmental quality authority as part of it. But in reality, we don't have control over our natural resources or our protected areas. Much of them are under Israeli control. Is that the native people don't have the ability to control their own lives, their own environments, their own natural ecosystems. So in that sense, I could say we're very, very low in this because we are not yet a state. We don't have independence. We don't have control over many things. Doesn't mean we can't do anything. As I explained earlier, we are trying our best under the circumstances to do what we can, and this is done with much of it via volunteer effort and individual efforts because we don't have the resources, we don't have the money, we don't have the ability to hire employees or go wherever we want to. There's restrictions on movement, for example, from one Bantustan to the next.
Is it easy getting local Palestinians involved in the environment, like recycling and things like that?
Yes, and we find that actually there is a significant interest among the people, especially young people, in the environment. And I think we were actually pleasantly surprised how receptive the population is and how anxious the population is to do something. Perhaps it's also a form of resistance that people feel that they can do something, they can protect an animal, protect a plant. Perhaps this is the nature of empowerment. And I think this is what makes for a very good vision for us in terms of liberation. I mean, the museum motto is respect. So, and it's over there on that sign, respect for ourselves first, because as Palestinians we can't always blame everything on everybody else and the occupation. We have to have some self-empowerment, so that's self-respect, loving ourselves, believing in ourselves, acting for ourselves, etc. And the second level of respect is respect for other human beings, whoever they are, whatever their background is. Diversity of people, I would say. And third is respect for nature, and that's biodiversity, respect for diversity of animals and plants, not to harm animals and plants, not to harm even the structure of the habitats, the rocks and the water, and not to pollute our water, not to trash our streets, etc. These three levels of respect basically summarize the philosophy that we operate on, and as far as reception, it has been phenomenal. I mean, I think I'm actually very, very pleased by how much there is interest in this.
Is it important to get the young people involved in the environment?
Absolutely, because they are the future, and they are the ones who are going to put up with all the trash that we have, the older generation have generated, and the human species now facing a calamity never faced before. I mean, we could go extinct as a species by one of two ways, either by global climate change or by global nuclear war. And people are starting to realize these dangers and starting to think seriously that the governments are not able to handle them. The governments are usually people who are politicians who are interested in just the position they have and are not interested in solving these problems or addressing them. Maybe they do it photo op opportunities, not real tackling the problems. So if the governments are not acting, it leaves us, the people. We have to act, and most change in society happens from people.
What's your prayer, finally, for the environment of Palestine?
Well, I mean, I'd like to see our vision is humans living in harmony with nature and with each other, and in a sustainable way. It's as simple as that. If we don't do this, as I said, it's an existential threat for us. We're not going to survive. So that's a vision, and that's what we hope for, that's what we pray for, and that's what we work for. Most importantly is work. If we don't work, if we don't do anything, we cannot just stay around and just keep, twiddling our thumbs.
Okay, Dr. Qumseyah, thank you very much.
Thank you.